All right, parallax scroll effects. I'm gonna show you quickly what we're gonna build today, and we'll see. Like in half an hour, we'll see if we can actually finish all of them. But I'll try as much as possible. Of course, like and these are something that you can build. Maybe I'll just do it one by one. I'll show you one by one. And this one is coming from Framer's already old like website, but there is a very interesting scrolling effect that I found at the time. Is that this this rectangle becomes like a window of the larger content that's in. And when you scroll the page, and you'll see that the content in the window actually scrolls faster than the rest of the page. So that gives us an opportunity to see all the page content, although we only have a limited screen real estate right here. So this one is something that we're gonna build, and also like this one. Probably we don't have time to build everything there, but we're gonna learn enough to be able to build it. Like this one, I really like the effect like this. And of course, this one is the one that I showed on Twitter, and this is a Lottie animation, so you can use scrolling to control its play in progress. And the one after that, that is kind of a slightly different, and this is something that we're gonna hopefully build today as well. But yeah, let me just move this guy away. And in case you want to follow along, you can get this starter file. I'll post it in the chat so you can download it. And this is exactly the same file that I have right here. It's got a lot of stuff there. And let's start from actually this one, from this this guy. So of course we need to install this this package, Parallax scroll effects, and then the first thing that you do is basically grab it and drag it over there, and put it in a frame, and connect it to a longer frame. So this actually works exactly the same as the standard scroll. So it's exactly the same as this guy, this scroll, and then sorry. And then over here, if you want to, like, for now, it just normally like scroll like that. It doesn't have anything surprising. So we want to, for example, make this little rocket image right here in the middle. So we want it to move differently than the rest of the page. The way to do it is to kind of grab this parallax layer on the left, and this is another component, and then just drag it over and connect to the layer that you want to use, and then on the right you can now adjust the settings, and for now it just works, exactly as a standard scroll. But by the way, I like this lock button very much. So after that, you can make changes to your page, and you don't need to worry about losing losing the focus over there. You don't need to worry about like suddenly it'll display the selected item instead of the whole frame that you want to preview. So now you select this parallax layer, and then you can define, there are a few things that you can define, right? And you can, first of all, you can make it to depend on the scrolling position, the position of X or Y. And normally, if we are scrolling vertically, so it's going to be depends on Y, right? And by default, it's rotate, and you want to define a range when this parallax effect takes effect, basically. And now let's say we give it an, from 0 to 500, and that we want to rotate it however we want. So now when you scroll, you see it just change the rotation of this image according to the scroll position, right? And like I did in the Twitter message, if you see, and you can do this Y, and then it'll change the Y offset of this image according to the scroll position. So from scroll 0 to 500, and it'll have you're gonna have a Y value that's between 0 and minus 100. So if you see that, if I scroll slowly, you see this this effect, right? So it moves slightly up. It just move up faster than the rest of the page, and that's why we put a minus number right here. And so this one is just the width, a very few, like you don't need to write code at all, and you can make some interesting scrolling effects. And of course, there are times that we want to make more complex effects, and that's going to be the focus of today. But before that, I want to show you one more, which is that Framer. This guy, right? Yeah, this guy. Okay, let's close this preview. Again, drag this parallax, scroll, and connect it to the longer frame. And this is the content that sits inside the window that's longer than the window itself. So how are we going to do it? So we're going to just create a frame right here. Actually, this might be easier. So we're going to just drop this parallax layer first. Okay, I'm going to create this first. Just add this one, and then connect to the rest. Connect to this frame. That's going to be longer than the window, actually. So you're going to see something like this. But you want to, how do we basically put it inside the kind of a window thing so that it only show a part of this longer content? So the answer is that we're going to put it inside a frame. So right click and add a frame, and then set the frame, set its overflow to hide, and then we're going to have a window, right? And now we can just use we can just select this parallax layer and configure the properties right here. Make it bigger like that. So let's say we want the Y as well, and we want it to scroll faster than the rest of the page. So first define scroll range, and then maybe 400. I don't know. Let's see how it looks like. Preview it, and that's actually what I just shown you, right? Maybe we want it to be a bit faster, but that gives you an idea of what kind of a thing that you can build. So only two components that you need to worry about. One is a parallax scroll, which works exactly the same as the standard scroll, except that it adds some additional stuff so that we can control the individual elements inside the page to make it move differently. And then we can use a parallax layer on it, after we connect it to a frame, and then we can configure its how its behavior when the scroll happens. And feel free to play with that, to build whatever that you want. So that is the no code approach, right? And as I said, I wanted to talk more about the code approach instead of no code approach, because that allows us to add a lot more advanced stuff. Yeah, so to do that, I'm gonna show you something, just start from a very simple example. Again, I'll move a parallax scroll and then connect to the rest of the page. And then now if we preview, maybe I'll make this smaller so that we can see the code. So it does not do anything. And now, let's say we want this icon to kind of to be sticky on its place when we scroll. Basically, we don't want it to scroll along with the page. We want it to kind of be sticky when we scroll. How do we do that? And this time we no longer use this parallax layer at all. We just go over here as long as it is a frame. So you can see that it is a frame right here. And we actually probably just choose this frame. It's containing frame. And then gonna add an override. Okay, create a new file. And then let's go into the code to see how it looks like. And of course, we're gonna just remove all these stuff. Don't need them anymore. And let's just call it icon. And then we want it to be sticky, right? So how do we do that? So we're gonna first import something from. This is a code that like this, framer/lintiny. Let me actually copy it from somewhere else. I don't want to do the typing. Okay, we need to import two things from this guy. And this has an error, but it's actually a bug of a framer itself. Don't worry about it. And I think hopefully they're gonna fix it. I just updated to the latest version, but it seems like it's the latest version, but it's still not fixed. But again, it works. Although you'll see this error in the editor. And now what we want to do is that those are two hooks, right? So if you're not familiar with those concepts, I recommend you to look at my course, and where all those concepts are introduced one by one and from the very beginning, even if you don't have any coding experience. But at this point, probably don't have time to cover all of the basics over here. But you're gonna call this use scroll hook, and then you get this guy in return, and it is actually a motion value so that we can use. So if we're gonna do it this way, so that's Y position of the icon that we want, right? So we're gonna do this use sticky, and give it the scroll Y and the range. Let's say from 200 to 500. We want it to be sticky, and then just return Y like that. And remember to actually change it over here. Yeah, this is a very annoying bug. Okay, there's only one override there, and let's see if it actually works. Do you see the difference? So when I scroll, first the icon is gonna scroll with the page, but after a while, when it reach at some point, it's gonna be locked into in its place, and then when I keep scrolling, the rest of the page scrolls, but not the icon. but afterwards, and it'll, scroll along with the page. And that's exactly what we actually specified right there in the override. So from scroll position 200 to 500, we want it to be sticky, and otherwise it will not be sticky. And actually, we can do multiple ranges right here if you want. Let's say six. I don't know, like you might be able to find a better use case of this one, but I found it to be useful to support multiple ranges. So now 200 and the 500 is sticky, and then after a while, it's gonna move along with the page, but just a little bit. When it reaches 600, it's sticky again, and then 800 is scroll along with the page. So I think you can build very, very advanced stuff like this. And this is just one of the hooks provided there. And you can check out the documentation on the page on the store page, and there are a few others. And let me see, I only have 10 minutes, so this half an hour thing is very challenging actually. Um, and what I see here, this override is really, I can, the way that I see it is like a kind of advanced properties panel, so that you can put a lot more stuff there. And it's just like, remember we have this guy, there are only limited options that we can put on this property panel before we start to actually use up all the space there. Whereas if we have an override, and we can have a lot more flexibility in what we can do. That's I'll keep doing. I'll keep using some of the things there. Use speed, for example, and use speed is another hook, and we can say like -2, and just observe what's going to happen here. So when I scroll into 200, it actually moved down. And afterwards, it'll move faster than the rest of the page. So if you give it different numbers, it'll just move at different ways that you want, and you can experiment with these numbers. So in general, if this speed is 0, it actually move at the same speed at the rest of the page. And if it's a positive number, it's moving faster than the page. And if it's for example -1, it's gonna be the same as sticky. It just locks into its place. And if it's -2, it's gonna moving downward, like downwards, right? So it's move at the opposite position, opposite direction as the rest of the page. And this is the use speed. And there is another use trigger. I'm not gonna cover use trigger anymore. But as we have seen there, for example, this guy, sticky header, and this, I'll just show you what I wanted to build, but we probably don't have enough time. But it's like this, you probably already know how to build it. So when I scroll, this label or title just lock into at its original place. And after a while, you'll be able to scroll it. You will be able to push it outside of the boundary of the screen. So as an exercise for you, you can just use that starter file to add this kind of effect. So this one, and the iPhone XR, this one is a bit more where is it? So this guy, you can see this becoming dark, and you will be able to actually use transform combined with that scroll Y to control the opacity of a layer over there. This is the layer that I was talking about. So here, okay, it's this layer. I call it a blocker, but it's just a layer with a gradient fill. And if you change its opacity, you'll get this effect. And the way to do that is maybe I'll do a little one, this one. So I'm gonna use transform, and then I'm gonna say opacity, use transform. Because this scroll is a just a motion value, we can use transform to convert it from one value to another value range, right? So let's say we convert it between 1 and 0, and then we're gonna return it, return an object that that's basically how override works, right? And then where is the code? Yeah, it's over here. And then you'll see, look closely, when I scroll up, it'll become, its opacity become approaching 0, and until it becomes totally invisible. So, like I said, you can do a lot of stuff, and for this phone, you can make it scale change according to the scroll position, because you can basically use motion values as well, right? And also those kind of things. And I think I'll leave this as an exercise for you to so that you can just play with it and see how it's going to work out for you. And as I mentioned, as I promised, I'm gonna just do this Lottie one. This is a little bit different than the rest, and this guy, and this is a Lottie component. How come I cannot select it? I'm not sure what's going on. I should be able to select it, but I'm not using like the most popular Lottie package on the store. I'm using this one, which is called enhanced Lottie. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there are actually 3 of them. Don't use these, and this one seems to be the most recent. And the reason that I'm using it, because it allows us to control its progress by property. So right here, you can see the current frame. It is the property that we want to control when we scroll. So let's see if we can make it work. I don't know why I cannot select it anymore. This is enhanced Lottie. This one is the one that I wanted to work on. And then again, this is just a parallax scroll, and this one is the enhanced Lottie. And then we'll just add an override, and add an override to this one, and let's say call it just copy everything there, Lottie. And then I'm gonna return something, right? And because there's a prop which is called current frame, and it's gonna be, let's say, if it's 40, and we can see how it looks like. So if it's 40, let's try 80. Does not have any effect. But yeah, anyway, the idea is that we want to use, so we're gonna repeat this U scroll so that we can get this scroll Y motion value, and then we're gonna call a function over there on the motion value, which is called onChange, and then it's gonna give us the changed value at like whenever it's updated by somebody else, and then we'll use that to actually change a data object. Let's say frame. Make it 0. Then use transform instead of a use transform here, because this value is a number, not a motion value. So I'm gonna do this frame equal transform 500 to, let's say, 0 to 80. I don't know, I forgot the number, but basically the idea is that we're gonna use this data frame, and then we change it right there, and you know, override the current frame of this logic component. Oh, I remember why it was not working, because I forgot to add the override. So now let's add it. This is buggy. I don't know what is going on. Why I cannot select this anymore? Okay. Yeah, sometimes you need to remove the override before adding a new override for some reason. I don't know, but it's actually already working, right? Before, if we don't have this this override, and it just scroll without changing, but if we add this override, we're going a little over time. I'll try to finish up, but the idea is really, if we go back to the override file, it's this one, right? But this is actually not the best way of using this onChange, and probably I'll add a later session. Maybe I'll talk about what it's supposed to be, and as an experiment, it actually works, but you need to do some cleanup work after using this onChange. But this work, at least this works. And the idea is that, again, we use this use scroll to get the scroll Y. And then when the scroll Y changes, we want to use that to update the value of this data frame, which is in turn send it to the object to override its current frame property. That's what we can see from the documentation of this enhanced Lottie. And again, very similarly, we can do stuff for videos, and I should actually, I'll just show you the result, not actually how to do it, so that I can finish it in about a few minutes, or maybe. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, just feel free to type it in the chat box so that I can address them. But this is a very similar idea. So this is a video, it's MP4 video, and you can use that to control the current timing. And you see this one. And this autoplay one is kind of different. So it's when we scroll into a specific range, we want to start playing the video, and that's another use case of this component. Yeah, I think that's all I have for now. I actually still have a lot more, so half an hour is definitely not really enough to cover all of them. But I hope that gives you an idea of what it looks like, and hope that it will help you to build similar or even much better scroll effects with this component, and just send me whatever you build. I will really love to see it.